Hello! Today I thought we were going to talk about The Matrix and the many interesting subjects that we can talk about when a director, creator of a famous high-concept sci-fi, start to talk about the movie and what they really meant, and politicize a franchise like the Wachowski sisters did. The article, I Too Was Living a Double Life, Why Trans Fans Connect to the Matrix, written by Connie Hanzung-Yin on the NPR site, published 22nd of December 2021. Lots of 20s there. She'll give us some great talking points for reflection. In short, this article claims that the Matrix is really about transgenderism. But first, let's create some healthy boundaries. I will mainly talk about the original movie from 1999 and reference the two main sequels if relevant. I will not mention the latest Matrix installment, The Matrix Resurrections 2021, as upon writing this I have not yet seen it. And if any of these Matrix movies has transgenderism as a concept, I'm sure that one will have it. It's far more interesting to watch the first three movies as they were made before the Wachowskis became trans. So let's nerd up and talk about The Matrix. The Matrix, what is it really about? The Matrix is about an average office rat, Mr. Anderson, who likes to hang out online afterwards as a hacker named Neo. Neo is contacted by an anonymous voice on a phone, because as it turns out he is wanted by Men in Black for what seems to be hacking. After a series of semi-surreal experiences, Mr. Anderson is revealed to be living in a Matrix, a VR simulation created in a computer. He can choose to stay in the Matrix or be freed from the Matrix in the very famous scene where he can choose the red pill or the blue pill. Mr. Anderson chooses to be freed from the Matrix and enters the real world. And from here, the story becomes a battle for the liberation of the people stuck in the Matrix, with high-octane action sprinkled with some postmodern musing about what is real and what is not real. The real world is a cold, hard, unpleasant place, whereas the fictitious place is far more pleasant, although at first glance more boring and safe. Although as the action starts and the Matrix is revealed, the world becomes more vibrant, surreal, strange and fantastic. The basic modern, for 1999 at least, comfort seems always to be present in the Matrix. The real world, on the other hand, is visually presented in a cold, blue, dark and sometimes slightly overexposed light. The clothing they wear are worn. It's not a nice place at all. It doesn't seem to care about anyone's feelings. The facts matter there. Humans are slaves to machines. The price of freedom is a struggle and pain. The desert of the real, as Morpheus calls it. I didn't say it would be easy, Neo. I just said it would be the truth. So for clarity, when we later will talk about the relationship between these worlds, the Matrix will be defined as fantasy, virtual, and unreal, and the real world is the real world. I guess this presumption itself can be questioned. So is the Matrix about transgenderism? Lilly Wachowski said the following.
I'm glad that people are talking about the movies, the Matrix movies, with a trans narrative.
I'm glad that it
has gotten out that, that was the original intention, but the world wasn't quite ready at a corporate level. The corporate world wasn't ready for it.
So the premise of the movie, The Matrix, is that our hero knows the truth, and that is that the world we are living in are lies, made for us to feel content and docile and passive, while the power that be harvests us like cattle. Having that knowledge makes the hero Superman with the moral superiority to kill anyone in the Matrix. If they are part of the system, they are part of the problem and can be exposed of as seen fit. The premise of reality and virtuality could be interpreted in many ways. And in queer-friendly global homo times, there is a need for this movie to be about transgenderism and transsexuals' rights. The article I too was living a double life. Why trans fans connect to the Matrix seems to be a part of this project. The article narrated that anonymity on the internet made it easier for trans people to live out their identity online, hidden behind screens, and the Matrix is all about the cyber existence. The article writes, Erin Reed was 13 when she watched The Matrix for the first time. In the mornings, she would log into the internet chat rooms with a feminine screen name and talk to her online friends. Then she would return to school and her real life, where everyone knew her as male. There's a quote in the original Matrix movie where basically Agent Smith sits down and says, Mr. Anderson, it seems that you've been living two lives. Reed explains, referencing a scene where the protagonist hacker persona Neo is uncovered. I remember that line stuck with me as a teenager because I, too, was living a double life. We all live two lives.
Fuck you.
Aaron does. I do. We all do. Persona, the Greek word that the word personality comes from, is Latin and literally means mask, character played by an actor. It is always implied that we live with masks, pretend to be others than we are. These are general truths, not subjective ones. Most of us, maybe all of us, feel just like that. It's not a transsexual specific experience. The article writes later, The Matrix was written and directed by Lana and Lilly Wachowski, two trans women at the time of movie's release were not publicly out. Ever since both sisters came out to the public in the 2010s, people have long speculated about the trans themes in The Matrix. Also in the article, a couple of more overt parallels have garnered attention over the years. For example, Neo is offered a choice between a red and blue pill. The red pill will open his eyes to the truth that he is living in a simulation. The blue pill will allow him to continue his ignorance. The red pill that Neo ends up taking is similar to what estrogen pills, used for hormone replacement therapy, looked like in the 90s. Okay, we're gonna do some comparison here. I really can't say what the director wanted the famous pill scene to be. Both pills look any type of pill, and the colors give association red, passion, hot fire, and blue, apathy, cold ice. And also, did Neo change his sex after taking the red pill? Was there any gender, sexual, or racial change to the character after that point? No. Doing some shallow research online with types of red pills from the 1990s seemed to indicate that ecstasy came in red pills at the time too, as did oxazepam and oxycontin. Neo took pills and his mind expanded. That sounds more like a hallucinogenic drug trip rather than the first hormone treatment. I would think, in all probability, is a drug scene more than a transsexual scene. Without knowing much about these Wachowskis, I would suggest you could find evidence that they were part of the scene, as they call it. I leave you to think about what drug use can do to the mind on your own. This article continues. The Wachowskis wanted the character switch to present as male in the real world while presenting as female in The Matrix, as an explicit nod to the idea of transness in an online world. In an interview with the Entertainment Weekly, Keanu Reeves, who played Neo in the movies, recalled an early draft of the script that was later changed. I think the studio wasn't ready for that, he said. The character ended up presenting a woman in both dimensions. The character switch does represent a little gender bending, and by that I mean the actress Belinda McGlory looks androgynous in the film. And if all kinds of gender bending is in the trans category, then I guess we could claim that the character Switch is a trans character. But trans, the man, changed, right? And Switch never changes her gender, even though her appearance is asexual. But let's focus more on the idea stated that it was too controversial for movie studios and that the corporate world wasn't ready for it. If we think that the character Switch was presented as a male in the real world, who then chose to portray himself as a woman in the Matrix? What would that say about transgenderism? All three Matrix movies are about fighting for reality. Reality and truth is freedom, and Matrix is a lie that makes humanity slaves. So all that is happening in the Matrix are lies, and the change in switch gender would be a part of that lie they are fighting against. Right? Right? So all that is happening in the Matrix are lies, and the change in switch gender would be a part of that lie that they are fighting against. Right? Right? The character of Cypher, who is also a secondary villain of the story, betrays the heroes so that he can be part of the Matrix again. He longs for fantasy over reality. He wants to deny reality, be someone of importance, an actor. He wants to transform into the Matrix and be a part of the illusion. He is a villain. He wants the Matrix with his lies and illusions to be upheld. If Switch then were to have been, as her original character description was, a person who was a man in reality and a woman in virtuality, and the fight was to destroy the lies of the Matrix, wouldn't she also be working against her own self-interest? To remove his ability to transform into a woman when he wanted to. Now I don't know how much focus the script would have had on this side character of Switch. If he would have been a cross-dresser in the real world too, an extremely effeminate man with makeup, etc., or if the contrast would have been clear, a masculine man in the real world and a feminine woman in virtuality, like someone playing Lara Croft in a game. The relevance can also be questioned. She is even killed off halfway through the movie and have little effect on the plot as a whole. In summation, chicken and the egg. In the end, it's really a chicken and the egg thing, as the Matrix was made in postmodern times. I am not going into depth about postmodernism, but in key words, it's about breaking down the modernist belief in categories and objective reality. Although the Matrix movies creates a dichotomy between the lie of the virtual world and the harsh reality of reality, it also blends and blurs the boundaries. That is what postmodernism is. Questioning what is real, why it is real, and blurring the lines until everything solid melts into air. In later installments of the franchise, Neo is even seen having the Matrix superpowers also in the real world. And so, although I would object to the idea that the Matrix is really about transsexuality and transhumanism, the postmodern ideas are very much a part of the transsexual philosophy. They are not opposites. Postmodernism and the Matrix spread ideas that objective reality isn't really real, and how we feel and identify is really what matters. So what came first, the postmodern idea or the transsexual ideas? It all ends up in a blurry grayness anyways. So although it isn't about transsexuality, it is about postmodernism, and so the basic concepts are the same. It's all words and ideas, and we can change ideas and meanings because we feel like it. When you realize the world isn't real and is all code, then you can break down the code and change everything. Now let's just forget the outside reality, which is so mean. Cause in the end, maybe Neo and the others aren't fighting for the destruction of the Matrix, but for themselves to be the deciders of what the Matrix should be. The external and objective reality is just a cold and nasty place anyways. But the thing about objective reality, it has a tendency to stick in time, in some form or another.